Hey everybody, welcome to Black Cat Forge. Thank you for dropping in today. I think you're going to really enjoy the project I've got lined up in this Learning Blacksmithing 101 class. If you remember last week, we made steak flippers. Today we're going to be making a hot dog fork. And we're going to learn some new things. We're going to learn how to, first of all, flatten our steel and keep it even all the way up and down. We're going to learn how to split with a chisel. We're going to learn how to make a nice centered handle, and then we're going to learn how to make a flat twist. So what are we going to need to make this project? Well, first of all, you're going to need 3 foot of 5/16 round bar. You're going to need some soapstone if you're going to mark some measurements on your anvil. You're definitely going to need a center punch. You're going to need a chisel. You're going to need a hammer. And you're going to need a ruler or some measuring tape. So before we jump into the project, please do me a favor, go ahead and click like and subscribe. It just helps keep me motivated knowing that, hey, you're wanting to watch this and you're liking what you're seeing. Also, when I do drop new videos, you'll get alerted that, hey, there's a new video from Black Cat Forge. So let's get the forge lit up and let's get started, and I'll see you in a moment. All right, so the steel's getting hot. While we're waiting on that, I wanted to come to the anvil and do a quick talk about the steps we're going to do. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to take one end of this rod and we're going to flatten 4 inches of it till we have it 1/2 of an inch wide. And when we do that, we want to work both sides of the steel so it's just not one side flat. We want it kind of in the middle. I do know from experience that my anvil face right here, the width is 4 inches. So I know that's what I have to work. I did come here with my soapstone and I marked a 1/2 inch. So I know when I get it to a 1/2 inch, all I got to do is lay it on here to verify it's at a 1/2 inch. The one thing we want to keep in mind is as we're working on this, we don't want it to get kind of wavy. We want to true it up every time we work it. Before we put it back in the heat, we want to true it back up because we want to keep this in plane with the round steel. Because the next step is when we start doing the splitting to make our prongs for the fork, it's very important that we have it all nice, straight, and true. So I'll be back at the anvil in just a moment, and we'll start working on the flattening portion. So I've got it nice and hot. I'm going to lay it here. And I'm just going to work down the 4 inches. I'm going to flip it over. And do the same. And then the last thing I want to do is before I heat it, before I put it back in the heat, I want to make sure it's good and square and true. So I've got a little bit more to do, so I'm going to heat it back up and we'll be right back. Now I'm just working this to get this to the 1/2 inch mark. And again, like I said, always work your edges to true everything up. And right here, I'm happy with this part. Right here is still a little, this part here is still a little narrow. So I'm going to heat it up and I'm going to work the bottom a little bit more. I'm just going to work this bottom portion a little bit more. And as you do this, you will see like a little depression right there. All you have to do is just give it a couple more whacks, and that will draw it out. So we're still working on getting this out to 1/2 inch. Remember, we want to work both sides of our steel. And I just want to double verify my measurements here. Okay, so we now have it out to 1/2 inch. What I want to do now is I want to heat it up and get it all square, and then we'll talk about the next step we have to go on. So all I'm doing is I'm just giving it little love taps. I'm not hitting it hard. I just want to make sure that it's straight, and I'm happy with that. So that's 4 inches by 1/2 inch. So I'm going to quench this. I'm going to do some markings, and I'm going to come back and show you how we're going to do the next step. Okay, so what I've done is, since I know this is 1/2 inch wide, half of 1/2 inch is 1/4 inch. So I've taken my ruler and I've put in Sharpie marks just to show me where half is, where 1/4 inch is. I'm now going to take my center punch and I'm going to go ahead and start marking center. This is going to be the line that I'm going to use when I do my chisel work. We're going to do this. I'm going to get the steel hot. And then while the steel's getting hot, I'm going to talk to you about chisel work. So let's get the center punch marks right now. And if you've never used a center punch before, you don't just hold it and hammer it. You're going to take your first hit, make sure that it's exactly where you want it. Then you're going to place it back in the first divot, and then you're going to work that divot. That is, make sure that you're on track. Because if you just held it and hit it and hit it and hit it, it could jump out, and then you're not in the same spot that you thought you were. And one thing you have to remember also is, as you're doing that, this steel is going to want to bend a little bit. It's no big deal. All we have to do is just straighten it back out. So here we have our road map that our chisel is going to follow, so we know half. So let's get this hot. Okay, so we've never done any cutting with our chisels in this video series. We've only did some veining on the leaf on the last one. So when you do cutting with your chisel, it's always a good idea, first of all, to put a piece of sacrificial steel down on your anvil face. This keeps your chisel from going through and marking up your face. It's protecting your anvil. It's always good to have a sacrificial piece of steel. The other thing, and I've talked about this before, is if you look here, you notice that there's a slight little curve in my chisel. And the reason that blacksmiths do that is as we work our cut, we're going to hit it. We're just going to walk it up. See, and with that round, we can walk our anvil up the cuts. And the other thing is we don't want to cut all the way through. We want to get almost all the way through. Then we want to flip our steel over and cut it from the back side. The reason we want to do that is as we're cutting, we're making a jagged edge called rag. And if we cut it all the way through, when you flip it over, the other side's going to be very ragged, very ugly, and you're going to have to do a lot of file work to get that cut down and make it look nice. But if on the last cut, if you flip it over, you're cutting that rag and you might have a much cleaner cut. This is something I didn't know till about last year. I was working with a totally different blacksmith I'd never worked with before. And he showed me that little tip and I'm like, that is so cool. I wish somebody had shown me that earlier. Now, the other thing I just want to talk about is, yes, I'm going to show you how to do chisel work. Chisel work is the traditional way of cutting your steel. It's a good skill to know. It's something to learn. But later on down the path, when you have your shop and you've got some more skill, you know, you can use a cutoff wheel. You can use a bandsaw. This is not the only way to cut your steel. I'm just showing you the traditional way of doing it. If I was doing this for myself, I would have my angle grinder out, I would have it locked in my vise, and I would have it cut by now. So I'm getting my steel on the sacrificial plate, and I'm getting my chisel lined up on the dots, and the very hard part is making sure you're straight. So that's not bad. That's a good little cut right there. So now I have a straight marker. I'm going to go heat this up and continue my chiseling. So now that I have my first mark and I know that it's good and straight, I'm going to put my chisel back in that mark. I'm going to rock it forward a little bit. I'm going to hit it. I'm going to walk it forward just a little bit more. And I'm going to hit it. Now I've done 3 hits, so I'm cooling my chisel. And again, the reason we do that is we don't want to lose the temper on our steel. So right there, that's what we have so far. We're going to heat it up and we're going to go down until we have our line. After we have our line, everything else is going to be easy, but we have to make that line as straight as possible. So as we work the steel, we know we have a fairly even cut. And the nice thing about having center punched all those holes is you know you're on path. It just keeps you centered, so to speak. Punch my chisel. Okay, so we have our line scribed all the way down. So now all we're going to do is we're going to start, again, we're going to start at the top and we're just going to work our way down till we're about 90% through. And then we're going to flip it and we're going to work here. And the nice thing is when we do work the back side, you will see the line when it's hot. So we'll have an idea of where to start cutting. So let's get this hot and let's get this done. So we've skipped ahead some. I'm sure you would have gotten really bored just watching cut this. I've also changed from my chisel to my slitter. It's just basically a thinner chisel, and it has a handle on it. And I like the handle on it because I don't have to worry about missing and hitting my hand. So, quench my slitter here. So as you can tell, we've got a fairly deep channel. It's pretty good looking right now. I'm happy with it. In a bit, we'll begin to start seeing a faint line on the back as we get almost through. When we get to the point that we see that line, we're then going to cut from this end. That way that reduces the rag and gives us a really nice and clean cut. Okay, so I've almost went all the way through, and I don't know if the camera can pick this up or not, but there is a very faint line right here. That tells me that's where my line is on this side. So once I get this hot again, I'm going to start cutting on the back and we'll be through. All right, so I'm now working on the opposite side. I'm seeing my line. I'm going to put my splitter on there. And yep, I'm coming through. And again, the reason I'm cutting now from the back side is I'm wanting to have a really nice, smooth cut. I'm getting rid of that rag. So yeah, I'm through. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to finish following this line till I'm all the way through. So I'm just continuing to work this new line. So we're just about through. And I do have to confess, this is rather tedious work. To do this splitting by hand. But it is a good skill to know. So we're just about through. I'm going to work right here. We're going to have our split. And we are through. So here's what it looks like so far. And you can see all this stuff right here. That's the rag I was telling you about. It's not as bad on this side, but we still got to do some cleanup on here. So what I'm going to do real quick is I'm going to go hit this with the flap disc and get it cleaned up. If you don't have a flap disc, you can use a hand file. It takes a while to do. One day I will do a video on hand filing. But for right now, I want to get this cleaned up real quick, and then I'm going to show you how it looks. All right, so here's what we've got accomplished so far. There really wasn't that much to clean up. I was rather happy with it. Everything is fairly similar in size, which is good. Even if they're off a little bit, that's fine. In the next steps, that will all be taken care of. Um, we've learned quite a bit today. We've learned how to do flattening and keep everything equal in size and width. We've learned how to mark with the center punch, how to cut. We've learned how to use the chisel or a slitter. Um, so this video is starting to run just a little bit long, and I think we're at a great stopping point for today. I think we've learned a complete lesson. So next week we will release the second part where we will learn how to make the handle. We'll learn how to do a flat twist, and then we will have a completed hot dog port. So thank you for watching up to this point. Hope you have a great day. Remember to please hit like and subscribe. I really enjoy making these videos, and I love to see people join and give me the thumbs up. Also, if you have any questions on today's video or any of my other videos, please leave me a comment. I love comments. I promise you I will reply to it. So thanks and have a good day.